Hi, my name is Jay Gruenke, and I'm the founder of the Balanced Runner System, Drama in the Living Room. I've been helping runners improve their form and performance since 2003. And I'm here today with another stuck-at-home running form tip for you, from my living room to yours, helping you use this time as an opportunity to become a better runner. And today, I just want to talk about whether you should do what I say. And here's what I mean by that. So this is video number 40. That's a lot. And like, I'm not out of stuff to make videos about. I am not out of ideas, not out of things that I know about running. And I love telling you about them. And I've been getting a lot of really ecstatic emails and messages from people who've been watching all the videos and implementing the things that I say, and appreciating some of the myth busting for things that they've been trying to do that are wrong, that have been holding them back. And I love getting those ecstatic emails. It really makes my day to hear that I've helped people improve their running. And it reminds me of the first time that I kind of came out from behind the curtain and started actually telling people more or less how to run, rather than just creating lessons. My colleague Julia and I went into Central Park. I was in New York City at that time. I went into Central Park on National Running Day and just offered free running form analyses to the runners who went by. We just took a sign and clipboards with little checklists on them, and did assessments and gave feedback and recommendations to the runners who stopped. And they all ran off looking much better than they had run in. And at the end of the day, we went to a cafe and had a cup of tea and looked at each other. And finally, one of us said, why are we even bothering to give lessons? When just telling people how to run seems to work. As long as you're telling people the right things, which is more than half the problem with most of the running technique advice out there. So it was a little bit of a crossroads for us. But then we went back into the office and resumed what we always did, which was give people lessons. Feldenkrais lessons, because we're Feldenkrais practitioners, and I've developed this way of using the Feldenkrais method to help runners. And I had trained Julia in that process. And so she was working with me, and we were just went back to doing that work. And all of the clients that we helped using that process got much, much, much better than the ones that we just told what to do in Central Park. And so then we were no longer in a state of crisis. We recommitted to what we were doing. And that was, probably 14 years ago at this point. So that may be only mildly convincing to you. And why should it matter, right? If you're getting a lot of value out of these videos, isn't that good enough? And yes, I'm thrilled you're getting value out of these videos, but I have also, alongside the ecstatic emails that I've been getting, or just the happy and grateful emails, I've been also gotten some emails and some messages from people who've been implementing the things that I'm talking about, and new problems have appeared, especially, with the running faster stuff, calf tension. Maybe it was never a problem before, but it's starting to appear, new tensions in new parts of their body. And that's why running technique advice has had a bad reputation for so many generations of runners that we're living in different times now. That's why some coaches advise runners not to try and work on their natural form that they were born with, although no one was actually born knowing how to run, but set that aside for a moment. That's the danger of just doing what somebody says, is that even if it's the right change, it can backfire if you're making it the wrong way. If your method for realizing the change is not the right method that matches the learning process. I mean, so most of the runners who get great results out of just listening to me talk or reading my blog posts about running form are runners who were consciously or unconsciously actively trying to do the wrong things because of all the wrong information that's out there. And basically, I've just given you permission to stop doing the wrong things, right? And rediscover what you're capable of all along. But a lot of our running problems come because the very best ways that we know how to coordinate ourselves for running are flawed. And the part of your brain that needs to learn better doesn't understand verbal explanations and needs a physical learning process. And in the absence of that, if you just listen to what I say and try and do it, you will probably do it by adding muscular effort. So, for instance, if it's your habit to keep your weight in the middle when you run, so that your head stays pretty much in the middle as you're running, it doesn't sort of move side to side, you don't, your shoulders don't turn that much, that's just kind of your natural form, and and you sit back a little bit. So, and then you hear me say, well, your pelvis should be over your hips in mid stance, and there should be some side to side movement. So what you'll likely do is try and make those movements by, subtly contracting a bunch of muscles. I mean, I always say, whatever you do, don't squeeze your butt to try and get your hips forward. So, hopefully people listen to it and not do that. But you might do a little something with your abs and a little something with your hamstrings to try and move things forward here. And then you might sort of intentionally start trying to rock your head, or intentionally start trying to turn your shoulders when you run. And you are doing that work on top of the muscular activation that you spontaneously bring to your running. So you're adding effort. And then the movements are also the movements that you're making are not in balance through your whole body with the other stuff that you're doing. And that is, there's definitely a risk of that backfiring. You might do it enough that you can gradually kind of feel how to adjust things so that you get it to work. That's an experiential learning process. That's fine. But there's a really danger that you will do it too hard or too much, make too radical a change, add too much effort on top of what you're already doing. And even though it was the right change, it's going to backfire for you. It's not a great way to learn. It's a great way to add intellectual understanding, but it's not a great way to learn how to move. The other thing that can happen is that you can end up fighting yourself. So a great example of that is with the face forward movement. I see that this can happen. So I've talked a lot about how the skull has to slide on the atlas vertebra. So you go like this in order to be able to lean forward. But for runners who naturally maybe carry a lot of tension in their calves, which is usually because the core is too stiff, the torso is too stiff, and so the foot has to work too hard to push you forward. Or it could just be because you wear high heels for work all day because your job demands that, and so your Achilles are short. But if you move your head forward, you might end up having a tug of war between your head, and particularly the muscles that connect your head to your neck, and your calves. And at the very least, you're going or if your calves don't let you lean as much as your very active effort to move your face forward is creating, then you can end up feeling it in your back. You can end up feeling like your back tenses a lot because your pelvis can't go forward, and so you do it kind of from here, and then you tighten your lower back muscles. And it might not even look wrong from the outside, but you feel the tension. And again, that's because you didn't know how to make a whole body change. You couldn't feel, just even set aside the word know because it suggests something intellectual, right? You couldn't feel how to make the whole body change that would make that form shift, really doable and positive for you. And so that's why I'm a little worried about you doing what I tell you to. I'll be really honest. And that's also, and even more than that, I want you to understand what movement learning is. Like in running, there's such a science behind coaching, behind training. There are different schools of thought, but there's methodologies, there are principles, there's feedback loops. And when it comes to the movement side of running, how are you coordinating your body? That barely exists. There's a little bit of research that's been done, and it tends to focus on just a couple variables as opposed to, whole body patterns, which is the only way movement works. And a lot of it has been done on treadmills, which is then not even relevant. And that's even on what are the movements without taking into account what does motor learning really demand, that the process be for people to effectively make change, make true change, instead of just trying to look right from the outside. So that's just sort of that area of running, that side of running is as a sport is still kind of in darkness, I feel. And so, more so than even just cautioning you to not try to make the things that I'm talking about happen, but let it be a field of exploration for you. And to reiterate my invitation, there's a free resource in every video that I post. Get those resources, do them, because that's where your real learning is going to happen. And this intellectual understanding that you get from me talking or demonstrating is like it could sit on top of a movement learning process, but it's not a movement learning process. For running form to improve, you need the right change to come via the right process, at the very least. And Adelino, I see your comment. For me, it's working. And I think that's, and you are, I know that you come here every day with questions and comments. You listen to what I'm saying and you go out and try things. And then you get feedback and then you come back to me. So that is the structure. That is the basic structure of a movement learning process. So the rubber is meeting the road for you. It's not your fastest possible learning process, but you're getting your body involved. So that's the sine qua non. Yes, well, and Helene, thank you for that comment, and I will come back to that at the end. I just want to get the rest of this idea out there. So I feel for runners to really realize their potential on the movement side of things, they need to make the right changes through the right process. But even more so, I want you to understand that that's actually the wrong order. You need the right process that will allow you to discover in your own body the right changes. And this is the basis of my entire practice. So, I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner. I'm trained in the Feldenkrais method of movement education, and I use Feldenkrais lessons to help runners improve their form. And I started the Balanced Runner roughly 18 years ago. There was not it was I got into this work. There was not like a crisp line where okay, we're starting now. And I got into it by sorting out my own running problems using the Feldenkrais method. And so all the things that I say, everything I've said in like these 40 videos so far is post hoc. It's the stuff, it's the explanations that I've come to, to account for the changes that I've seen hundreds and hundreds and thousands at this point. I don't even know how to put a number on it, of runners, including myself, make through Feldenkrais lessons that had, that made their running feel easier and more comfortable and faster without increasing their effort or particularly their heart rate, and reducing their pain and discomfort and helping them recover more fully from injury, and just love running and perform up to their potential if they're competitive. So whenever a Feldenkrais lesson has done that for somebody, I've looked at then, okay, so what happened to how they're moving? And then I've had to go and figure out, well, why does that work? And 18 years of that, more or less. And here I am making 40 videos, and like in another 40 or whatever, I could talk for absolutely forever about all that stuff. But it didn't come from me reading research, like I'm trained, I've been in the field of movement education my entire adult life. So I bring a lot to the table here, but like the stuff I know about running didn't come from any of that. It's all coming from working with runners through this method, seeing what happens, and then going out and trying to find resources to understand. But it's all based on the changes that I see. The right process, coming to the right changes, and then I've worked, so how can I streamline that process for people, given what I now know? And so that's why, today is the 6th of May. It is International Feldenkrais Day, because it was the birthday of Moshe Feldenkrais, who invented this method, a genius on whose shoulders I stand, without question. Actually, I'm standing on 2 sets of shoulders at least, him and then Jack Heggie, who was one of the early practitioners and the first to explicitly work with runners. And he wrote a book called Running with the Whole Body, which is still in print. You can still get it off of Amazon. It's a good book. It's marked by its time. It came out in the 80s. So there are a couple things in there that are kind of 80s. And it was before the Barefoot Running Minimalist Footwear, so he didn't have that to refer to. But the lessons are great. The book is great. His audio lessons are great. He, alas, is no longer with us, but nor is Moshe Feldenkrais. But on this day, when Feldenkrais practitioners turn to look at our method, and then turn outward and try to help a little more every year to spread the word about what's available. I want to actually, the Feldenkrais Guild of North America sent out a great quote from Moshe Feldenkrais that is exactly apropos here. He says, "I believe that knowing oneself is the most important thing a human being can do for himself. How can one know himself? By learning to act not as one should, but as one does. We have great difficulty in sorting out what we do as we should from what we want to do with ourselves." And the applicability of that to your running is that truly excellent running form isn't running form that's simply correct. And I talked about this back on Earth Day too. It's not learning to perform a correct series of movements. It's developing your repertoire of possibilities and your sensitivity to yourself and your interactions with the environment, so you can always make the best choice. I mean, we always make the best choice we can. And if you're really struggling with your running, that may not be good enough to keep you healthy and meet your goals, and as you build your movement skill, then spontaneously your running form is able to optimize better and better in a wider variety of situations, both internal and external. And that's great running form. And so when you have a process that builds that ability, then you get the right changes. And so I want to really encourage you to flip your thinking about your running form, on its head. Like, what's your process? What's gonna make you the best animal that you can be, operating apparently by instinct, And what we need to understand about ourselves as human beings is, for a lot of animals, they're born already with like their movement hardwired. Like, especially in the simpler the animal, like a baby chick comes out, gets up and walks. So does a fawn, and a calf. And I rapidly get out of the realm of animals that I truly actually know anything at all about. But does a human being like walk within hours of being born? No. We're very complex animals. And so a lot of what happens, a lot of what's hardwired for other animals, we have to learn. And, and then there's in-between zones, like kittens are busy playing so that they learn how to hunt and how to jump. And the more they do that, the better they get at it. Puppies, fox kits, little baby coyotes. These are the animals I see around me. So that's similar to a human being. You need that process of play and feedback, and that's a learning process to develop your full animal abilities. And for humans, this goes on for a very long time, and it never really has to stop. The more you do it, the better, and as though by instinct, you function, in running and everything else. And that's what I really want for you as a runner. I want you to feel like an animal. I could just stop there. So I'm going to put a resource in the links below today that I created a few years back as a real alternative to any kind of a list of correct running form actions that you should perform. And it's the Balanced Runner Keys scan. It does, like, back there in the background, there is a list of the changes that I see people make as they become better animals. But it guides you. It's an audio guide, so you can play it at the beginning of a run, and then take your headphones off and don't listen to anything for the rest of the run, because good animals do not listen to stuff when they are out running. Anyway, for 7 minutes, you can listen to this, and it will walk you through the process of finding in your body the potential that's already there, and helping to nurture and bring to fruition the elements of healthy running form without adding effort, fighting your body, or forcing anything. And so they won't all completely 100% come together, but you'll get to the best that you can do with what you know now. And the risk is lower than if you go out and try and do the stuff I'm talking about. So take advantage of that. I think it's honestly pretty good. If I didn't, I wouldn't offer it to you. And so great. So I see some questions and comments in here. And yeah, great. So Helene says, this resource has filled in a lot of intellectual gaps in what the Balanced Runner lessons teach. Yeah, and so absolutely. I mean, that's why, like, despite all I said, here I am on video number 40. Like, I'm making videos, I blog, I write, I don't hesitate. And the longer I'm at this profession, the less I hesitate to tell people, how running really works. Because having the right set of concepts is valuable, and most of all, it helps displace all the bad ideas that you've picked up elsewhere, and armor you against future bad ideas. And we do have the capacity to intellectually understand things, and especially once you have already, so for the people who are watching these videos who are already my students, you've had the physical learning experiences, but it can really help then, once you have that, to put the intellectual information on top, and it does add a dimension to your learning. And I'm so happy to provide you with that. I think that's totally cool. I have no qualms about it, you know, but you just understand it's like the thing that goes on top. It's the frosting on the cake. And maybe it's the frosting that sticks the layers of cake together in the middle too, but it's not the cake. So Marco says, can you write down in the comments the book you mentioned? Yes, absolutely. It is, oops, if I can, I don't know, oh, there we go. Running, for some reason, here we go. Running with the Whole Body by Jack Heggie. There you go. And there's a book by that name. And last I saw, Amazon has it. And then there's also a set of audio lessons by the same name, but the lessons are not identical to the lessons that are in the book. And the book is great for the narrative around it. I think his audio lessons, the pre-recorded, anyway, are really superb. So, you know, I definitely recommend those. Patrick, Patrick, you already put it out there and I could have saved myself the typing, but thank you for that. You're welcome, Adelino. Yes, you know, doesn't it like just change your idea of what success might look like to think, you know, it is arriving at being an animal, you know, being that physically present and functional in the world, you know, rather than getting your form correct so that your training can pay off for events, right? Yeah, really, that's realizing your potential. Okay, good. So that's all the comments. Thanks, guys, for coming along for this ride. I hope that has been a useful video for you. It certainly did go on for a while, 26 minutes. I think we should... yes, it's good running, feeling weightless. Absolutely, Audrey. You're welcome, Helene. Thanks, guys. Happy Feldenkrais Awareness Day. There is a free Feldenkrais online summit going on right now. So that would be not stuff for running, but other practitioners offering the method to other populations for which it's incredibly valuable, or just the method in general for whatever application you like. So I'll put the link to that in the notes below too. You know, in a few days that'll be over. So if you're watching this video, you know, down the line, that might not be relevant. But for anyone who wants to check that out further, I definitely encourage you to do so. So thanks so much for watching. Hit like if you found this video valuable, and subscribe if you haven't to my channel, and click the little bell icon so that you get notifications about all my videos. And please check out all the great resources I have for you on balancedrunner.com. Have a wonderful day, you animals. I'll see you tomorrow.